It's me. That's perfect. You look great. Hi, I'm Ellie from the European Projects team here at Health Action International, and I'm here to give you an overview of our 2019. We started the year by working with some other civil society groups to draw up an election manifesto. What we wanted to do was put people's health and access to medicines at the heart of EU policy making. And that meant that we needed to talk to the public about issues like public return on public investment, alternative research and development mechanisms, and transparency in prices. And we wanted to do this all in the run-up to the European Parliament elections. February saw a huge victory for all access to medicines advocates, with the approval of the Supplementary Protection Certificate manufacturing waiver. We've been calling for this waiver for some time and talking to MEPs about how important it was, so we were really pleased to see the European Parliament's action on this. In March, we kept talking to campus and university hospitals about the need for impartial, unbiased information for medical students. And we did this with a group of students, so it was training from students, for students, and with students.
My name is Peter. I just graduated as a medical doctorate in Berlin, Germany.
In April, I headed to South Africa, Johannesburg, for the second Fair Pricing Forum. We co-organised a side event which looked at transparency in prices and prepared us and the network that we were talking to for the World Health Assembly meeting on this issue. In April, we also published a report on the responsibilities that universities have to report clinical trial results, which made quite an impact. In May, we had our High Europe AGM in Riga, and during that we also held a public event with representatives from the Latvian regulatory agency, civil society and academia. That month was also really busy for us because we participated in the 72nd World Health Assembly. We delivered statements on a number of issues, engaged in dialogue with several governmental delegations and lobbied strongly for the transparency resolution. A meeting in Brussels on medicines for rare childhood diseases. We remained engaged to support civil society efforts in the EU, both in Brussels and in member states, and we continue to promote the use of TRIPS flexibilities as a mainstream tool to improve access and affordability of medicines in the European Union. In September, I joined the team. I moved to Amsterdam this year from London, where I spent 5 years working in policy and campaigns at some of the UK's biggest charities. In my first month, I went to Brussels and joined the fifth annual meeting of the European Alliance for Responsible Research and Development and Affordable Medicines. That month also saw us contribute to discussions at the Euro region meeting of the WHO, where we supported the implementation of the transparency resolution and called on member states to take advantage of the WHO mandate on the topic. And we launched a paper on the risk of bias in clinical trials of cancer drugs, which got a lot of attention in the press. In October, we and our colleagues at Transparamed hosted an event in the European Parliament where we talked about greater transparency in clinical trial reporting. We had representatives from the Cochrane Collection, the European Parliament, the European Commission and the European Medicines Agency all participate in the discussion. It was extremely timely, coming just a few weeks after the Advocate General Hogan's opinion on transparency and access to documents. November saw our penultimate event of the year in Utrecht. The event was co-hosted with VEMOS and the University of Utrecht as part of the final stage of our Medicines Are Right campaign. We had a discussion about achieving public return on public investment and how we can implement the NFU's recent guideline. Plus, we got to launch our report on socially sustainable licensing policies. Later that month, we held a webinar on pharmaceutical marketing.
With myself and Executive Director Tim Reid, where we'll be talking about pharmaceutical marketing online.
And last but not least, in December this year, we issued a policy paper looking at the progress that's been made on access to medicines here in the Netherlands. This was looking at everything that's happened since we launched our Medicines Are Right campaign back in March 2017. We discussed our conclusions at a breakfast meeting in The Hague with parliamentarians and civil society organisations who'd endorsed the paper. And we had to think about what we can do to continue to improve access to medicines in the Netherlands. And that's it! See you in 2020!